Our program, you're very welcome to our pilgrimage to Rome and Assisi, which will take us right through Lent. And our pilgrimage this evening is involving Vivian and myself, and Bridie is going to lead us in prayer. Bridie.
Almighty Father, you are the aim and the object of our lives. You are the goal of our journey through life. We give you thanks for those who journey with us, especially those who have become our fellow pilgrims. Guide us on our way during our pilgrimage to Rome and Assisi. May we discover something new around every corner. May our lives find deeper meaning in unexpected events. May the feet that walked before us bless our every step. May our prayers be like flowers growing on the pilgrim way. Make our joys and griefs light as we carry them within the backpack of our souls. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bridie. So we're going to start off with the Castle d'Angelo, which is a famous historical site just outside St. Peter's. And Viv is going to lead us from there up the Via Reconciliation to St. Peter's Basilica, St. Peter's Square. And then I'm going to guide you around St. Peter's Basilica, very quick guide. And then we're going to go to the Vatican Museum, again, a quick tour. And we're going to finish off with the Sistine Chapel, beautiful, beautiful setting. And I contacted a friend of mine, Ryan Brown, who is a seminarian for the Diocese of Portsmouth in his third year of training in the English College. And he left us a lovely message, but unfortunately, there's some technical problem. And so he's not communicating properly with us. So Ryan sends his best wishes, and Jackie is in the English College next week. So you'll learn more about the English College next week. So Viv, the Castle d'Angelo is way out here to the right, and Viv is going to lead us from there into St. Peter's Square.
Good evening, everyone. Today, as we begin our journey, I'm so mindful of the Apostle Peter, the first Bishop of Rome, and that we're going to be walking in areas that he would have walked, of his martyrdom, the fact he's buried here, and that his remains are to be found in St. Peter's Basilica. Today, we're visiting the heart of the Catholic Church, the Vatican. So we're going to begin our pilgrim journey at Castle Sant'Angelo, which has towered for almost 2,000 years over the Tiber, first as a symbol of Rome's imperial power and later as a papal fortress, seen as the powerful guardian of the most sacred place in the city. You can see it there. Construction of this building began in AD 135 under Emperor Hadrian, who intended it to be a mausoleum for him and his family. In the Middle Ages, it became an unassailable fortress and military building. The monument consists of 3 blocks, one on top of the other. In 590 AD, there was a great plague that heavily impacted upon the city, and the then Pope Gregory I, who'd just been elected, had a vision of the Archangel, St. Michael, on top of the castle, announcing the end of the pandemic, which apparently happened. In memory of this apparition, the building is crowned with a statue of an angel. There is a 800-meter fortified corridor that links the castle with the Vatican City, and so that the Pope could escape in the event of being in danger. This occurred during the siege of Rome in 1527, when Pope Clement VII used the fortress as a refuge. Castle Sant'Angelo was considered so difficult to attack that the popes in the Middle Ages decided to create the Hall of Treasures, where they stored their treasures in an enormous chest. During the Renaissance, Michelangelo was involved in making the papal apartments at the castle more opulent, whilst the architect of St. Peter's Square, Bernini, made the whole area more spectacular by reinventing the bridge that we see there that connected the castle to the land, St. Angelo Bridge. It has become the obligatory passageway for pilgrims crossing the Tiber. Another interesting fact is music has also been celebrated at this monument. Castle Sant'Angelo is the scene for Puccini's Tosca. Today, Castle Sant'Angelo is split into 5 floors, reached by a spiral ramp. The lower part contains the cells where people were incarcerated. In the upper part of the castle, there's a range of different rooms that functioned as a papal residence, and they're decorated with perfectly preserved frescoes from the Renaissance period. Plus, there's an extensive collection of weapons. The upper floor contains a terrace which provides an excellent area to take photographs. So the castle provides a reassuring presence as we cross the Tiber by the Sant'Angelo Bridge, and we make our way up the Via de Conciliazione, the road of conciliation. We can have the next slide. Built during the time of Mussolini, and we see in front of us Piazza San Petra, with the giant obelisk in the foreground and St. Peter's Basilica at the rear. So if you look at this photograph, you can see Castle Angelo right at the back. And then you come up, we've crossed the Tiber and we're coming up here into St. Peter's Square. So the Piazza San Petra, or St. Peter's Square, is a meeting place for pilgrims from all over the globe. It's a gathering place, and for anybody who's been there, you know exactly what I mean. And it's one of the world's great piazzas. The piazza appears to be formed into 2 areas, the outer area here, and then the inner square in front of the basilica. Dominating the outer area is the obelisk, made from a massive single block of red granite, weighing over 330 tons. And that was brought from Egypt in AD 37 to originally be in the Circus of Nero, where it was placed at the center of the circus. It was in the Circus of Nero that Peter was tortured and died as a martyr. And it has been commented that he would have seen that obelisk during the final minutes of his life. We can have the next slide. The obelisk was moved in the 16th century from its original circus location to its present spot and remains as a witness to Peter's martyrdom. It's now topped by a bronze cross, which contains fragments of the cross from Jerusalem and is dedicated to the Holy Cross and inscribed, "Christ now conquers, Christ reigns, Christ rules, may Christ defend his people from all evil." St. Peter's Square, if we can have the next slide, itself has the shape of an immense ellipse, as you can see, enclosed by 284 Doric columns, 4 rows deep. Designed over a period of time, the masterpiece as we see it now, with the wonderful colonnades encircling the square, was the work of architect and sculptor Gian Lorenzo Bernini. Bernini was famous for his work as a sculptor as well as an architect. The piazza was built in the mid-1600s. Let's look at the design a bit more. As you can see, the entrance to the square in front of the basilica is through 2 lateral passages at the sides of the colonnades. This produces a great stage setting effect, whilst at the same time providing a feeling of awe and meditation. You feel yourself welcomed into the arms of the Christian church. This is visualized in Bernini's drawing, where the church, that is the basilica, is the head, and the colonnades are the open arms of a human figure. The colonnades give shape and form and size to the piazza, The columns form 2 curved arcs and extend 4 rows and are located on each side of the basilica. Bernini's wonderful design envisaged the colonnades would form a permeable boundary for visitors and worshippers, so they feel welcome and embraced. On top of the colonnades are 140 statues that represent the martyrs, founders of the religious orders, and the saints. They stand as witness to the power of faith to transform lives, and they stand in solidarity with pilgrims who enter the sacred ground. It's from St. Peter's Square that pilgrims meet for the Pope's weekly audience or receive his Sunday blessing, and where the world gathers for the presentation of any new Pope or key moment or proclamation. Pope Francis is the 266th successor to St. Peter. The colonnades, the saints, the squares, the obelisk with the basilica in the background form one of the world's greatest public spaces. As we go on to the next slide, let's now spend a moment reflecting on the statues that we see here, the saints. And as we think on the saints, but also perhaps let us think on the saints that we've known. And we might want to say a quiet prayer for them.
So we're going to go into St. Peter's Basilica, and we're going to go in this door here, and we're going to go around to the right around up to the center nave and the high altar. And we're going to do so beside the Holy Door. The Holy Door is open every 25 years for Holy Year, and pilgrims come in great numbers for Holy Year, and they enter this door. This is Pope John Paul II opening the door in the year 2000. And we've entered, not by the Holy Door because it's locked today, we've entered and gone to the right to this wonderful, wonderful piece of artwork by Michelangelo, who was 23 when he carved these 2 statues. And as you can see, it's the Jesus after his death on the cross, held by his mother, Mary. She is very, very young, and there's a great essence of love. Even from the marble, there's an essence of love in the artwork. And the detail, look at her hands. And again, a hand in prayer. So the Pietà by Michelangelo, and Pietà means pity in English, poor translation, but that's what it means. And St. Peter's, as you know very well, is a place of prayer, although sometimes when you go, there are so many people, it's a place far from prayer. But between the Pietà and this statue is the Blessed Sacrament Chapel, very, very popular and very quiet. So on the right-hand side, you've got 3, the Pietà, the Blessed Sacrament Chapel, and this wonderful bronze statue of St. Peter, who has his right hand blessing us, and on his left hand, the keys of the kingdom. Thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and I will give you the keys of the kingdom. Whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. This statue, this bronze statue, goes back to the 5th century, and so much so that pilgrims either kiss the feet of St. Peter, especially his right foot, or touch the feet. And so much so that these bronze feet are slowly disappearing. and Margot is going to read our gospel.
Jesus calls his first disciples. Luke chapter 5. One day, as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, the people were crowding around him and listening to the word of God. He saw at the water's edge 2 boats, left there by the fishermen who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from shore. Then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and let down the nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything. But because you say so, I will let down the nets." When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Go away from me, Lord, I am a sinful man." For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken. And so were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you will fish for people." So they pulled their boats up on the shore, left everything, and followed him. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Margot, thank you very much. So we have come to the central dome of St. Peter's, right up in front of the high altar. And the dome is one of the biggest domes in the world, designed, attributed to, again, to Michelangelo. However, he was not alive when it was opened. It was completed in 1590 by his pupil Della Porta. There are several elements, 6 concentric circles, including 16 large windows. Frescoes and figurines, 96 figurines. Now, if you're able and young and athletic, you can climb up to the dome. Well worth visiting. There are 231 steps in the first section, or you can take the elevator there. And then you've got to climb the other 320 steps. And the views, not sure what happened there. How do I go back? Previous.
That's right. Go previous. That's right.
Previous, do previous. That's right. You're there.
So having climbed into the dome, you can actually walk around here. Beautiful views of the city of Rome to the west and the north and the south, and also magnificent views of the interior of St. Peter's. The lettering here always in Latin, and these are 5 foot tall, so huge lettering. And we've taken a step back, looking up to the main altar and up to the main nave, gives you a view of the magnificence of the building. And this rather lovely treasure of the chair of St. Peter. Chairs in the Catholic Church is very important and a sign of authority. And this chair of St. Peter goes back centuries. especially to the 18th century, when a chair was discovered with ivory, venerated and traditionally held to be the episcopal chair of St. Peter, as he instructed the people of Rome. The base of the altar is made of black and white marble from Aquitaine and red jasper from Sicily. 4 gigantic statues, you can see this one here on the left-hand side, are the 2 outer statues are 2 doctors of the Latin Church, the Western Church, St. Ambrose and St. Augustine. And then there are 2 smaller statues of the Eastern Church, St. Athanasius and St. John Chrysostom. And even though there are huge mega divisions between the East and the West, here Bernini suggested that we bring these 2 ancient traditions together. Above the chair of St. Peter are 2 angels bearing a tiara. The tiara, for the want of a better word, is the headgear of popes, and the keys, and the 2 angels. Then this is crowned with this wonderful, this is absolutely magnificent, and especially if it catches the sun behind, made of Bohemian glass, and there are 12 sections in the window, the 12 apostles, and right in the center is the Holy Spirit. This is we've taken a step backwards again, so we've just been here, and we're now looking at the high altar. Only the Pope says Mass on this altar, consecrated by Clement VIII in 1594, and is above, we'll see in a minute, above the other altars that used to be here. And rising from the altar is this 95-foot canopy over the papal altar of St. Peter, designed by Bernini and his first work in St. Peter's. Bernini has huge influence in Rome, and when we go to the Piazza Navona, he has got strong influence there too. These 4 pillars, fascinating, and in many ways very daring, because they speak about pregnancy. You can see the idea. So it was a bold gesture on Bernini to put the new life of a child into this altar. A woman in childbirth. And again, that's just giving us a better view of where we've been, the window and the papal altar and the Bernini structure. So we've gone down below the papal altar, we've gone down almost into the crypt, where the place was where Peter was buried, crucified upside down, of course, in 64, buried on the spot of the Vatican Hill. And later on, when Constantine became emperor, a church was built with the tomb of St. Peter, and later the Basilica of St. Peter in the 16th century. So we've gone into the crypt, and in the crypt are about 100 tombs of famous people, including some popes. Despite the fact that this is a burial place, there's a wonderful atmosphere of prayer in the crypt. So it's well worth visiting to get the atmosphere there. Conscious of time, we've come out from the crypt. I've been going to Rome. I've been to Rome about 12, 14 times, either privately or with groups, sometimes leading groups. And I've missed this mausoleum. I only saw it the last time before. And it's a masterpiece by Canova commemorating James III, the old pretender to the English throne. And his two sons, they're buried below, they're buried in the crypt, Bonnie, Prince Charlie, and Henry. Canova was a leading neoclassic sculptor of his time and used this location to locate the House of Stuarts. Interesting connection there. So what we've done, we've just gone a quick tour around. We've just seen the last museum, the last mausoleum, and we've come out with St. Peter's, and Viv is going to take over from here.
Thank you. And so basically now we're going to move away from the basilica. And as you can see on the map here, we've come out. And what we're going to do is we're going to pass up on the side wall and walk up to the museum, the Vatican Museum. And so if I can ask Jackie, if we're now going to have a little, as we walk through there, we're going to pass the Swiss Guards. Now these, as we walk away, these Swiss Guards, and we pass their barracks, you can see them here. They look a little cross, but never mind. Yellow, red, and blue ceremonial uniforms, and they make up one of the smallest armies in the world. There's 135 guards. The guards were originally established in the 1500s under Pope Julius II, and they were originally Swiss mercenaries. Their role is for safeguarding the Vatican and protecting the Pope. And they carry out ceremonial duties, for example, guard of honor at receptions and audiences, plus, of course, security tasks. Now, amongst the group, should you wish to apply to become a Swiss Guard, there are very strict criteria. You need to be a Swiss citizen, you need to be male, you need to be single, at least 5'8", and be between 19 and 30. Well-educated, Catholic, and have your application endorsed by your local parish priest. You then complete basic military training in Switzerland and further training in Rome. And you have to do at least 2 years as a minimum, and the maximum is 25 years. Interesting. So we've walked up now the side, past the barracks, we're walking up the side of the museum, and we come to the museum entrances. And so if I can ask if we move on. And so basically we've now come up the side and we're coming into the museum entrance. And the Vatican museums are the public museums of Vatican City. And they again were founded by Julius II in the early 16th century. And they've been enlarged by successive pontiffs. The museums boast one of the greatest art collections in the world. And there are over 4 miles of halls and corridors which display vast complex works from the immense collection amassed by the Catholic Church and the papacy throughout the centuries, including several of the most renowned Roman sculptures and most important masterpieces of Renaissance art in the world. You've got in there exhibits range from Egyptian mummies and Etruscan bronzes to ancient busts, old masters and modern paintings. And the highlights include the spectacular collection of the classical statuary in the Museum Pio Clementino, a suite of rooms frescoed by Raphael, and the Michelangelo painted Sistine Chapel. The 26 museums, rooms and chapels are housed in the lavishly decorated halls that we see here and galleries of the Palazzo Apostolico Vaticano. And it's a 13.6 acre complex that consists of 2 palaces, the original Vatican Palace being near St. Peter's and the 15th century Palazzetto at the de Belvedere. And they're joined by these 2 long galleries. On the inside are 3 courtyards, and to be honest, it takes over a day to cover it all. So when it's not possible to do that all this evening, so we're just going to take a few key points in a few areas. And if we're now moving into what we call the Bramante staircase, there's 2 staircases with the same name in the Vatican Museum. The original Bramante staircase was built in the 1500s by Donato Bramante and was seen as revolutionary and an architectural wonder at the time, whilst the modern staircase was built in the 1930s, and that's the one we're looking at. This staircase, designed by Giuseppe Momo, is shaped like a double helix, made up of two intertwining spirals. One leads down and the other goes upwards. The staircase, as you can see, is beautifully decorated, rich brown and gold, and the ramp breathtaking. And people stand at the top to see the spiral design from a bird's eye view. Unlike the original, the modern staircase has long stairs built into it for visitors. The original staircase, a similar design to the modern version, allowed the Pope to travel from his private residence to the streets of Rome by carriage. No stairs, just a paved ramp, allowing carriages to travel up one way and down the other at the same time. The original staircase is still there, but it's not open to the public. And then we have, as we go into the museum, we have the Pinacoteca picture gallery, which we find just after the entrance to the museums. And that comprises of 18 rooms and is home to 460 paintings. Some of the major works include Caravaggio's Deposition, Leonardo da Vinci's haunting work of St. Jerome praying in the wilderness, which was never finished, and Raphael's last work of the Transfiguration. The Chiaramonti Museum, the one we're looking at now, is effectively the long corridor that joins the Belvedere Palace to the Vatican Palace. And as you can see, its walls are lined with over 1,000 antique sculptures, statues and busts representing everything from immortal gods to playful cherubs and ugly Roman patricians. It's one of the most important collections of Roman portrait busts. We're now going to move into the gallery of maps. And this is one of the most evocative and beautiful parts of the Vatican museums. And this is sited in the long corridor that leads to the Sistine Chapel, where the walls here are adorned, as you can see, with geographical maps. The gallery was commissioned by Pope Gregory XIII in the late 1500s, with the frescoes being created by Italian and Flemish artists under the direction of Ignazio Danti. He was a mathematician, astronomer, and cosmographer. And basically the gallery walls are covered with 40 maps of various Italian regions, together with maps of the main cities and frescoes of the main Italian ports, such as Girona and Venice. What's interesting is in the ceiling adjacent to each region, there are representations of the main religious events that took place in it. The peculiarity of some of the maps is that some appear to the visitor upside down, because when they were prepared in the 16th century, it was not a convention to place the north in the upper part of the map. The Vatican Gallery of Geographic Maps symbolically wishes to represent spiritual as well as geographical unity. As we walk along the corridors to the Sistine Chapel, we walk through the Tapestries Hall. Commissioned by Pope Clement VII. The tapestries woven in Brussels in the 1500s by Pieter van Elschool depict the life of Jesus, finely woven by the best weavers of the day out of wool, but also silk and gold and silver thread. They took years to make. We notice one tapestry in particular, the resurrection of Christ, where the weavers were able to depict human emotion using thread. And more amazingly, this tapestry that we're looking at provides an example of a moving perspective. As you approach it, keeping your eyes on Jesus's eyes, you keep walking and watch his eyes. By the time you pass the tapestry, the eyes are still with you. And it's a wonderful example of a moving perspective that you find in paintings such as the Mona Lisa. But to do this with a tapestry takes a lot of mastery and talent. The thing about the Vatican art is that through music, architecture, sculpture, and painting, the Vatican sees art as a witness to the beauty of creation and as a tool for evangelization. Next slide, please. its mission is to open its doors to people from all over the world and to open dialogue between cultures and religions, a tool for peace. They recognise that the Vatican museums must be a place of beauty and welcome, and that they need to welcome new forms of art, be alive and not just dusty collections from the past. They must also be available to all. And this is important because indeed, Pope Francis has encouraged and welcomed a number of homeless people from Rome to the Vatican museums, as well as prisoners from a detention centre to admire the Sistine Chapel, reminding everyone that the poor are at the centre of the gospel. And he has also called for showers for the poor to be placed under Bernini's colonnade in St. Peter's Square. Before we move into the Sistine Chapel, we take a quick peep at the Vatican Gardens from one of the museum windows. Thank you. The birth of these gardens began in the late 1200s with an orchard, a lawn and a garden, and now span over 57 acres. Major landscaping took place in the 16th century, and since then they have developed and feature English, French and Italian landscaping and plants, styles and plants. If we move on to the next slide, they're immaculate and stunning and provide a haven of peace and reflection. One of the installations that you do find in the garden is the sphere recreated by Arnoldo Pomodoro. This sphere has been designed so that the inner ball represents the earth, and you can see that there, the earth, and the outer ball, Christianity. The design of the inner layers, which look like gears or cogwheels of a complex machine, symbolizes the fragility and complexity of the world. We now move into the Sistine Chapel, and I'll hand over back to Father Tom.
Now, the Sistine Chapel, this is the exterior. It's drab and uninviting, but that's to be contrasted very powerfully with what's inside. In many ways, the Sistine Chapel is the climax of our tour, certainly for the museum. And it goes back, it's got loads and loads of artists, Botticelli, Michelangelo. There's a wonderful fresco and important works going back centuries. And I think Peter, this is one famous painting. There's paintings on the north wall by Michelangelo and on the south wall, but the ceiling is stunning. He spent 4 years. Some people say that he was a reluctant painter, and the Pope forced him to paint the ceiling. And this, of course, is the creation of Adam. Adam is naked. A lot of the figures are naked, and some of the popes objected to that, and some of the statues have been covered over. If you get a close-up of the God creating Adam, there's love and real sensitivity in his face, in the Father's face. Terrific horrors down here, people condemned to hell. More hopeful, the higher you go, the more hopeful people look. But a stunning, that's really captivating in reality as it is here. And then on both the north wall and the south wall have got the story of Jesus, the baptism of Jesus in the River Jordan. And then on the other wall, we have Moses escaping from Egypt, and we have the Old Testament one on the north side and the New Testament on the south side. The other thing about the Sistine Chapel is that when the Pope is elected, all the cardinals are locked in here, their mobile phones are confiscated, and the election of the Pope takes place in secret. They have a temporary chimney they install here with a fire, and they burn white smoke if the Pope is elected, and black smoke if there's no election. And usually the smoke goes twice a day, maybe after lunch and towards the evening, to tell the outside world that there's no Pope elected or there is a Pope elected. So it's either white smoke or black smoke. Walter is going to pray this prayer of blessing.
May Almighty God bless and protect us as we end another day feeling blessed and eager to walk again into the next part of our pilgrimage. You made us for yourself, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you. Enable us to go into the night feeling blessed, sheltered, and calm. May everything we see and experience in Rome and in Assisi enrich our lives as we put our love, faith, and hope in you, now and forever.
Amen.